Visit sailrite.com for all your project supplies, tools, and instructions. Got an old lampshade that just doesn't fit in with your decor? In this video, we'll show you how to recover your old lampshade using glue and one of our beautiful decor fabrics from Sailrite.
This video is part of our Airstream Argosy renovation. We'll be renovating an Airstream from top to bottom, inside and out. Join us for this exciting video series.
In this first chapter, we'll show you how to create a pattern using some craft paper.
So we have our lampshade that we want to cover in a decorative fabric, and I have a scrap piece of paper that I'm going to use for patterning. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lay the lampshade on the pattern, and this is the seam right here. You can see the seam where the two layers of fabric come together. I left the plastic on for now. We'll take it off in a little bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on the pattern, and then I'm going to roll it. The seam's directly down. I'm going to roll it to make sure I have enough room so that I can go to the seam again, and I do, so that's good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at that seam. So here's the seam right here, and I'm going to put basically a mark here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my pencil or pen at the middle position of the shade here, and then I'm going to walk it. And I'm trying to be as accurate as possible with this, but I'm just trying to keep it at that middle position as I roll it and make sure the shade doesn't move as I do this. And I'm going to go all the way to that seam again, marking this bottom edge. So here we are coming to that seam again, and it's right there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little mark there. Now don't move the shade, because now we have to go to the other side and do the same thing again. So there's where that seam is on this side, so I've marked that. And then again, I'm going to hold this at the center location and roll it back the opposite way. I'm going to take my clear acrylic ruler and I'm going to strike a line here and also on this side. Now we're going to mark a 1/2 inch outside of this line with our clear acrylic ruler, and we're going to do that to both ends. I'm just using this flexible ruler, which is almost puts a line at a 1/2 inch, and I'm lining it up with our line that we struck on the fabric so that we can add a 1/2 inch to this edge and that edge. Okay, or if you don't have that, you can just put little dashes at a 1/2 inch. Make sure this is perpendicular to the edge. And then after these dashes are on, you can join the lines together, being as careful as you can. So you've got two choices. Make sure you go all the way to this edge. We're going to cut on those lines that we struck that are a 1/2 inch outside of our original lines with some scissors that won't be damaged when you cut paper.
In this next chapter, we'll cut out the fabric using that pattern we made earlier.
So this is a cone-shaped lampshade. In other words, the diameter at the top is smaller than the diameter at the bottom, and you can't use a striped fabric with this. If it were a cylinder lampshade, in other words, the diameter at the top and the diameter at the bottom were exactly the same, then you could use a striped fabric. So here's the pattern we did for this one. Notice here, if I lay it on this striped fabric, the stripes would be very odd. They'd be straight here and then they'd angle at the side. So we can't use a fabric like this. You could use a pattern that is random, or a fabric like this that doesn't even have a pattern, but no stripes. So we're going to cut this out with a hot knife. This is a synthetic fabric, and it will unravel a little bit, and we're not going to put hems in it. So I'm going to put the tempered cutting glass for hot knife underneath our pattern, and then I'm going to use the serrate edge hot knife, and I'm going to cut right beside my pattern, and this will seal the edge so that you will not get unraveling. So we're going to just cut around the perimeter of our pattern. Now Sailrite does have a corded edge hot knife that's a little bit less expensive, but I love this cordless one.
In this chapter, we'll show you how to glue the fabric to the lampshade.
We're going to be using Super 88 adhesive, available at Sailrite, and we're going to shake the can well as instructed, and then we're going to spray it on both surfaces. The fabric, this fabric does have a right side and a wrong side. This is the right side, so I like to spray kind of off the fabric first to make sure that my mist is good. And we want to coat this fairly well. Okay, and then we're going to come over to the shade and we're going to do the same thing. And notice I have some paper down on the table. So if you coat both surfaces, then it's a permanent bond. I think I've got it. So you have some working time here. That's the nice thing, is that it doesn't set up right away. It's fairly slow. So I'm going to take this off my paper and I'm going to move my paper now because it has glue all over it. There's my seam, and I'm going to try to put the seam on the edge of the fabric with a 1/2 inch overhanging on both sides, like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll it and kind of guide it as well. I'm looking at my seam allowance here at the bottom, and I can kind of manipulate it a little bit if it seems like it's going off, but I think it's pretty good here. It's sticky, that's for sure. There, look at that. So now we got it on there. Now we check for any inconsistencies. Now you can see this edge that was hot knifed has a little bit of a burnished edge. In other words, it's burnt a little bit. Had I moved my hot knife a little bit faster, it probably wouldn't have done that. You will see that, but I don't think that's a big deal. We're using the SureBonder high temperature glue gun available from Sailrite in the acrylic glue sticks. The nice thing about acrylic is it doesn't yellow over time, where rubber or other glues will typically yellow over time. Acrylic will not. It's like umbrella fabric. And we're using the glue gun tip and the adapter for this tip, so I can get into tight spaces like my lampshade easily. Now, do you need this tip? Probably not. It just makes it a little bit more helpful to do lampshades and other projects like this. You can get all of this at Sailrite.com. I like to open up this part because the glue doesn't stick exceptionally well to the fabric. And then what I do is I use a glue gun with an acrylic glue stick, and I apply some glue very close to the edge of the fabric. Now you want to stick it down before the hot glue becomes cool, so do this in segments. So now I'm going to take my hot glue, because I'm going to fold this up, and I'm going to put it along this edge. Now I don't have to be as careful here, so I'm going to put a not generous bead, but at least a little bit of a bead. And the hot glue is going to cool pretty quickly, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do small segments at a time. So there, I've got hot glue on it, and also this is a great way to test to see if you've got enough glue at the right spot. And then fold your fabric under, and the hot glue grabs it. Look at that. That's nice. I'm going to put a little bit of hot glue here. Very nice. So we're going to keep doing this around the perimeter until we're done. And we're going to do this on the top side and the bottom side doing about, what is that, 5 inches at a time, and then folding the fabric back, making sure that it bites into the hot glue. Sweet. We'll show you what it's like when we're done. This fabric's hanging off the edge a little bit. We're just going to even that out. And I know you're probably saying, hey, you're not using a hot knife. Well, I know I'm not, but the hot glue will basically keep this from unraveling anyway. Then to fold this around, what we'll do is we'll put hot glue again very close to the edge of the fabric all around the perimeter. And you want to do this in about 6 or 8 inch increments, because again, you don't want the glue to become cooled down and no longer stick. And then roll the fabric around the edge and stick it down. Like that, and then continue on around doing this again. So by putting it on the edge of the fabric like this, very close to the edge, but not so close that it seeps through or seeps around the edge of the fabric, this sticks the material down very well, and you don't have to worry about it coming up. Then we'll do the same thing here at the top of the shade, putting hot glue very close to the fabric's raw edge, and then folding it back under. If the fabric gets in the way of the frame, you can cut little slits in it. I don't think ours, we have enough fabric to cut slits in it, but if that were the case, I would cut a small slit to allow the fabric to rest up against the shade. So here one is not coming down very well because of that frame, so I just cut a slit in there. Then I'll put some hot glue in there. I'm going to do it from the inside. Then we can press the fabric around that location. There we go. Nice.
Coming up next, a list of the materials and tools we used to recover this lampshade. If you have any questions, feel free to give us a call or email. We're glad to help. From all of us here at Sailrite, I'm Seth Grant. Thanks for watching.
If you enjoyed this video, click the link in the description below or at the icon at the top right to check out other projects in the Airstream Argosy renovation series.